11. september 2001. Verden så på i chok. I stedet for at analysere situationen og tænke rationelt, kastede alle sig ud i en masse psykose og hævntørst. Øjeblikkeligt og enstemmigt udråbte verdenspressen Osama bin Laden til gerningsmanden. Helt uden beviser. Afghanistan blev invaderet, og jagten gik nu ind på verdens mest eftersøgte mand. Utallige påståede terrorister blev fanget og overført til flådebasen i Cuba. Det berygtede Guantanamo-fængsel. Her blev fanger lænket som dyr i små buer på ubestemt tid, uden rettigheder. Uden anklager, uden retssag kom de til at sidde her i årevis. De demokratiske værdier, som vi havde kæmpet for i århundreder, blev nu trampet ned og latterliggjort i terrorbekæmpelsens navn. Fanger blev behandlet fuldstændig i strid med menneskerettigheder og international lov. Noget, vi havde kritiseret Kina og Sovjetunionen for tidligere. Nu var vi selv en del af den samme ondskab. Dem, der vil opgive grundlæggende frihed for en smule midlertidig tryghed, fortjener hverken frihed eller sikkerhed. Benjamin Franklin. Den amerikanske Patriot Act blev i al hast stemt igennem, uden kongressen havde fået en chance for at læse den igennem. Terrorlov blev i panik indført overalt efter pres fra USA. Al sund fornuft og logik var væk. Selv i Danmark blev der nu givet grønt lys for ulovlige aflytninger, arrestationer og frihedsberøvelser uden dommerkendelse. Metoder brugt af daværende Stasi, Østtysklands forhadte hemmelige politi. Vi er på vej til et samfund, som ikke længere bygger på retsstatens principper. Birgitte Kofod Olsen, Institut for Menneskerettigheder.
Er det jo faktisk at skyde gråspurve med kanoner uden at ramme gråspurvene. Forstået det hen, at de personer, som man gerne vil have fat i her, det er personer, som er meget sikkerhedsbevidste. Forstået det hen, at de ved jo ganske udmærket godt, at det ikke er deres egen PC og deres egen mobiltelefon, man skal bruge.
Vi er dybt betænkelige ved den måde, regeringen forvalter menneskerettighederne på. Sammen med førende jurister, tidligere PET-chefer og menneskeretseksperter er vi nået til den erkendelse, at det er gået for vidt. Amnestys pressechef Ole Hoflund. Olaf Jørgensen, der er afdelingsforstander i forvaltningsret ved Danmarks Journalisthøjskole, kalder terrorpakken for et alvorligt skred i retssikkerheden, og han advarer om, at loven på afgørende punkter er i klar modstrid med menneskerettighedskonventionen. Alligevel nægter politikerne med Lene Espersen i spidsen at rokke ved terrorloven. Jonas Christoffersen, der er cand.jur. Og adjunkt ved Københavns Universitet, deler opfattelsen af, at justitsministeren har været uimodtagelig for kritik, og at stort set alle indvendinger er blevet faret af bordet. Tidligere KZ-fanger og modstandsfolk viste deres afsky over for terrorlovene ved et arrangement på Rådhuspladsen i København. Søn af modstandsmand, Horserød Studhofforeningens formand Anton Nielsen siger: terrorloven er gået for vidt. Lighedspunkterne mellem modstandskampen under 2. verdenskrig og nu er alt for mange. Formålet med terrorlovene er at lukke munden på oppositionen og indgyde angst i befolkningen, så kun de få tør sige deres mening. Aaron Russo, filmproducer, måske bedst kendt for Bossen og Bumsen, og ikke mindst filmen Freedom to Fascism. Aaron var personlig ven af Rockefeller. Han fortæller her, hvad 11. septembers terrorangreb i virkeligheden handler om.
Can you be specific about when you met Rockefeller, how it happened in these discussions?
I met Rockefeller through a female attorney I knew who called me up one day and said, one of the Rockefellers would like to meet you. I'd made a video called Mad as Hell, and he'd seen the video and wanted to meet me and knew I was running for governor of Nevada. So sure, I'd love to meet him. And I met him and I liked him, and he was a very, very smart man. And we used to talk and share ideas and thoughts. And he's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event. Never told me what the event was going to be, but there was going to be an event, and out of that event, we were going to invade Afghanistan to run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We were going to invade Iraq, to take over the oil fields, establish a base in the Middle East, and make it all part of the New World Order. And we go after Chavez in Venezuela. And sure enough, later 9/11 happened, and I remember he was telling me how you're going to see soldiers looking in caves for people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all these places, and there's going to be this war on terror, which is no real enemy, and the whole thing is a giant hoax, but it's a way for the government to take over the American people.
He told you it was going to be a hoax.
Oh yeah, there's no question. He says there's going to be war on terror, and he's just laughing. There's no who are we fighting? I mean, why do you think 9/11 happened, and then nothing's happened since then? Do you think that our security is so great here that these people who pulled off 9/11, who were able to can't knock down another plane? Come on, it's ridiculous.
Før i tiden var medier og presse begrænset og kontrolleret af de få. Det var derfor let at styre og bestemme, hvilken viden og informationer befolkningen fik kendskab til. I dag har internettet med den eksploderende alternative presse vækket millioner op. Og de officielle nyhedsmedier har stille og roligt mistet deres magt, indtjening og troværdighed. Flere og flere kompetente faggrupper kræver nu en ægte uvildig undersøgelse af begivenhederne omkring 11. september. Lærte, piloter, brandmænd, arkitekter og ingeniører. Selv i Danmark har vi en 911-gruppe.
Over dødstallet er foreløbig nået op på 150, mens 1.500 er landkastet.
Internationale forskere har fundet spor af sprængstoffer i ruinerne af World Trade Center. I en ny videnskabelig artikel får det forskerne til at konkludere, at det formentlig ikke var sammenstødende med de to kaprede fly, der i 2001 fik World Trade-tårnene til at kollapse.
Der er ikke så stor nyhedsværdi i det her, som du måske tror. Fordi at de 3 skyskrabere blev revet ned, det er der 100.000 af mennesker over hele verden, der ved. Fordi det har været krystalklart længe af mange andre grunde, end det jeg kommer med her. Det her, det er kun det sidste søm i kisten. Det var da jeg så bygning 7, som er den 3. skyskraber, styrte sammen. Da jeg så den første gang, fordi den styrtede ned 7 timer efter tårnene. Og der var altså kun 2 flyvemaskiner. Så når man ser sådan en bygning på 47 etager, 186 meter høj, styrte sammen på 6,5 sekunder, og man er naturvidenskabsmand, så tænker man, what? Og så skal man lige se det igen. Og så skulle jeg se det igen. Og så trykkede jeg på knappen 10 gange, og månen røg længere og længere ned, fordi for det første havde jeg aldrig hørt om den bygning før, for det andet var der ikke nogen synlig grund til, at den skulle styrte sammen på den måde. Den styrter fuldstændig sammen til det sådan på 6,5 sekunder.
The globalists know that more and more people are waking up to their control-freak paradigm.
9/11 was done by people in our own government and our own banking system to perpetuate the fear of the American people and to subordinating themselves to anything the government wants them to do. That's what it's about, and to create this endless war on terror.
Fordi, som sagt, det er ikke the smoking gun, det her, det er the loaded gun. Og antallet af mennesker, som indser, at World Trade Center bliver revet ned, de vokser med tusindvis om dagen. Det er ikke noget, du bare sådan kan stoppe, så det skal nok komme.
Well, I think that the 9/11 truth movement is something to be applauded. That the reason that it's so necessary is that there are so many unanswered questions, and those questions are unanswered because this administration won't answer them. I mean, it's that simple, okay? Now, if they come through with the answers, there wouldn't be all these theories, but they don't. Okay, now, why don't they? Well, they have something to cover up, and the 9/11 Commission, of course, was a master cover-up. We know that.
Simple Edmonds, tidligere FBI og whistleblower, fortæller, at de arbejdede sammen med Bin Laden og Taliban helt op til 11. september. En videnskabelig meningsundersøgelse lavet af New York Times og CBS viser, at 84% af befolkningen ikke tror på den officielle version af 11. september. Kun 16% tror stadig på historien om de 19 flykapere. Lignende tendenser ses globalt. Hvis det ikke var en håndfuld vrede muslimer med hobbyknive, der planlagde og udførte det der mesterkomplot mod verdens stærkeste militærmagt, hvem var det så? Kan regeringer virkelig finde på at skabe terror mod sin egen befolkning?
Without an enemy image, you cannot have an oligarchical society. Ultimately, that's the why. Because if you look at this, you say, terrorism, endless war. Why? Who benefits? Those who benefit are the beneficiaries of the current system, financiers primarily. They feel that without the diversion of a war, they cannot maintain social relations, property relations in the current form. And this they are determined to do. So they have manufactured, in a complete hysteria, a largely fictitious external enemy. You remember 1984 by George Orwell. Julia at one point says, I don't even think there is a war. It's just a fake to keep people under control.
Det er et faktum, at regeringer altid har brugt frygt og trusler til at kontrollere sin befolkning med. En false flag operation er en hemmelig operation udført af regeringer, selskaber eller andre organisationer med det formål at vildlede befolkningen til at tro, at handlingen blev begået af en anden entitet. Der findes flere hundrede dokumenterede statssponserede terrorhandlinger blot i de sidste 100 år. Rigsdagsbranden i Tyskland den 27. februar 1933. Den hollandske kommunist Van der Lubbe blev hængt op på gerningen og dømt til døden. Nazisterne kunne nu lukke munden på oppositionen og indførte datidens terrorpakke med folkets velvillige accept. Først skabes et problem, så reagerer befolkningen som ønsket, og gerningsmændene tilbyder nu løsningen. Det kaldes problem, reaktion, løsning. 1. Lav en terrorhandling og beskyld en fjende. 2. Det skræmte folk kræver omgående handling. 3. Udfør nu den planlagte operation med folkets accept. 11. september. London. Madrid. Mohammed-krisen. Når folk er bange, giver de villigt afkald på deres frihed, fornuft og grundlæggende rettigheder for en falsk tryghed. Ron Paul.
In any crime, we look at who has a motive. And clearly, the oligarchs that run the New World Order world government system have all the motives, everything to gain. They've used the attacks to create a firestorm, an hysterical fear throughout the Western world. In fact, all over the entire globe. And their answer is more and more police state in nations domestically. The excuse governments need to crack down on their populations and their freedoms. And we're going to look at some more of the evidence of that. It's voluminous, to say the least, but we're going to cover some of it. If we tried to cover it all, this film would be several hundred hours long, literally. We'll also look at some of the other motives they had. It's not just about a domestic crackdown. It's about being able to militarily attack any nation that doesn't go along with the globalists, as well as the oil supply, the Central Asian oil supply. Afghanistan was the only nation holding out to allow a pipeline to go through their nation and down to the Arabian Sea. You see, the second biggest oil reserves in the world are in Afghanistan. But not just oil and not just pipelines.
James Casbolt, tidligere MI6-agent. Det må komme som et chok for mange, at den globale narkohandel køres og kontrolleres af efterretningstjenesterne. Den britiske efterretningstjeneste MI6 står selv for over 90% af al importeret narko til United Kingdom. Det er også afsløret gang på gang og bevist, at CIA transporterer heroin fra Østen og kokain fra Sydamerika til USA, hvor det bliver solgt og distribueret via lokale mafiabander. Narkotika er big business. Faktum. Narkotika er forbudt ifølge islam. Taliban havde reduceret opiumsproduktionen med hele 91% op til invasionen af Afghanistan. Dette passede ikke ind i de engelske og amerikanske interesser. Opiumsproduktionen er gået op med 3.300% siden invasionen. Afghanistan står nu for over 90% af verdens produktion af opium, som genererer en omsætning på over $200 milliarder. Helmand-provinsen, der kontrolleres af engelske og danske soldater, har haft rekordstor høst. Verden flyder i heroin. Situationen er forværret i Afghanistan, og et flertal i befolkningen tror ikke på, at krigen kan vindes. Danmark mister flest soldater. Russiske veteraner siger, at krigen ikke kan vindes med magt. Henry Kissinger, udenrigspolitisk drivkraft gennem en menneskealder, og Obamas bagmand siger: soldater er dumme, stupide dyr, der skal bruges som bønder i udenrigspolitik.
September 11th was about oil. It was about being able to attack any nation that got in the way of world government and the New World Order's aims. It was about controlling the opium supply. It was about record defense budgets, which the Carlyle Group, owned by the Bushes and the Bin Ladens, stood to gain from. It was about controlling the opium supply. It was about a domestic police state crackdown. Again, it was about world government and a massive movement towards tyranny.
Næste skridt var Irak, hvor interessen og formålet var helt tydeligt for enhver. Iraks olie, forretningskontrakter og en fast base i Mellemøsten, tæt op af Iran. Nu skulle krigen bare sælges til befolkningen.
In order to protect America from current threats and future threats, we got to be cold-eyed realists. And that's why I brought up the issue of Saddam Hussein. See, I view him as a serious threat to America.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein's regime is a danger to the United States and to its allies, to our interest.
The conduct of the Iraqi regime is a threat to the authority of the United Nations and a threat to peace. And we will not allow any terrorist or tyrant to threaten civilization with weapons of mass murder. States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world. Saddam Hussein is a threat. I think the threat is real. We must take the battle to the enemy, disrupt his plans, and confront the worst threats before they emerge.
The fact is that you don't want to wait until a threat fully materializes if you can avoid having that happen.
It concludes that Iraq has chemical and biological weapons, that Saddam has continued to produce them, that he has existing and active military plans for the use of chemical and biological weapons, which could be activated within 45 minutes, including against his own Shia population, and that he is actively trying to acquire nuclear weapons capability.
Vi har en regering, som gerne vil føre en aktiv udenrigspolitik. Ja, det skal jeg sandelig love for. Den er så aktiv, så den ikke kan vente på, at det, som er vores verdenssamfund, FN, har en ordentlig, rimelig diskussion og undersøgelse af, om der er masseødelæggelsesvåben i Irak. Det er ikke noget, vi tror, det er noget, vi ved, sagde regeringen. Og så gik man i krig med Bush.
Politikerne kunne lyve alt det, de ville, men folk købte ikke deres løgne længere. Et klart flertal i befolkningen på 56% var imod dansk deltagelse i den ulovlige angrebskrig. Efter 2. verdenskrig kom der ved en folkeafstemning en grundlovsændring. I hele denne forberedelsesperiode blev der lagt vægt på fremtidige regler for krigsførelse. Det stod klart blandt et enigt flertal af daværende politikere, at Danmark ikke kunne gå i krig med mindre. Landet blev angrebet. Krigserklæringen var godkendt af FN. Intentionerne i den danske grundlov gik også ud på, at Danmark ikke kan afgive sin suverænitet, f.eks. til multinationale magter, uden en flertalsafstemning på 5/6 i Folketinget eller ved en folkeafstemning. Ingen af delene var gældende i marts 2003 ved indgåelsen i angrebet på Irak.
If they had given us a couple more months, I think we would have been able to examine and inspect all the sites that had been given to us by the CIA and by other intelligence agencies. And since there weren't any weapons of mass destruction, we would have reported that both to the Security Council and to the services. And I think it would have been very difficult for them to start the war in those circumstances.
We know they have weapons of mass destruction. We know they have active programs. There isn't any debate about it.
We know that Saddam Hussein has a long history with terrorism.
We have facts, not speculations.
And we've been careful about what we've said, and what we've said has been exactly accurate.
We know what the fermenters look like. We know what the tanks, pumps, compressors, and other parts look like. We know how they fit together. We know how they work.
There's no doubt in my mind he wants to have a nuclear weapon, and he's got some capacity.
Sir, I think we will find caches of weapons of mass destruction. Absolutely.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction. There is no doubt that he is amassing them to use against our friends, against our allies, and against us.
But there's no doubt his hatred is mainly directed at us. There's no doubt he can't stand us.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein's regime is a danger.
The United States knows that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. The UK knows that they have weapons of mass destruction. Any country on the face of the earth with an active intelligence program knows that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction.
I mean, there was no way at all that Iraq could have a nuclear weapon. We came in there, and I was the head of the IAEA in 1991, and they couldn't make a bomb then, and we dismantled all the enrichment facilities they had. So it was out of question. It was sheer propaganda.
The United States of America will not permit the world's most dangerous regimes to threaten us with the world's most destructive weapons.
What was the reason for the rush to go to war? The administration seemed in such a haste.
I think the U.S. government had decided that they could not wait any longer than to mid-March because the temperatures would get very high.
We agree that the Iraqi dictator must not be permitted to threaten America and the world with horrible poisons and diseases and gases and atomic weapons. This man poses a much graver threat than anybody could have possibly imagined.
One thing is abundantly clear. Our nation is still in danger.
I think most people around the world realize that Saddam Hussein is a threat.
Kofi Annan, daværende FN-generalsekretær, kaldte krigen ulovlig og et brud på FN's charter. Hans Blix, der var chef for FN's våbeninspektører i Irak, fortalte i et interview på Al Jazeera, at han var blevet truet direkte af Dick Cheney til at diske op med de nødvendige svar. Der var kæmpe demonstrationer mod krigen over hele verden. I Folketinget blev der stemt, om vi skulle i krig. Hele 38% deltog slet ikke i denne vigtige afstemning. 28% stemte imod, og blot 34% stemte for. Det svarer til, at kun en tredjedel af den danske befolknings repræsentanter stemte for at sende os i krig.
Vi var jo en lille flok, måske en 5-6 stykker, der startede Grundlovskomiteen i 2003. Og det gjorde vi ud fra en dyb fortvivlelse og vrede over, at Danmark viste sig at være et aggressivt land, der gik i angrebskrig uden FN-opbakning. Tværtimod, Kofi Annan, dengang generalsekretær i FN, erklærede, at denne krig er ulovlig i henhold til FN-pagten. Værsgo. Det var en situation, Danmark ikke har været i nogensinde før. Og det var vi dybt farvede over.
Yesterday, we saw tens of thousands of demonstrators converge on Washington. They say we should not go to war against Iraq. I would just like to ask you this morning, what do you say to those people?
What I would say to them is that the president is trying every means not to go to war, but the decision to go to war is in the hands of Saddam Hussein.
One thing that has to factor in is the growing number of U.S. allies, Russia, Germany, Bahrain, now Canada, who say that if you go to war with Saddam, you're going to go alone. Does the American military have the capability to prosecute this war alone?
If you're asking, are you asking about Iraq? That the subject didn't come up in this meeting, but having said that, we take all threats seriously. And we will continue to consult with our friends and allies.
But broad opposition remains all over the world to your policy. Will you continue to try to build support? If so, how will you do that? Or do you think that a Security Council vote would be all the mandate you need?
Yeah. First of all, broad opposition around the world, not in support of my policy on Iraq. Well, I think most people around the world realize that Saddam Hussein is a threat. And no one likes war. But they also don't like the idea of Saddam Hussein having a nuclear weapon.
In the past several weeks, your policy on Iraq has generated opposition from the governments of France, Russia, China, Germany, Turkey, the Arab League, and many other countries, opened a rift at NATO and at the UN, and drawn millions of ordinary citizens around the world into the streets in anti-war protests. I ask, what went wrong that so many governments and peoples around the world now not only disagree with you very strongly, but see the U.S. under your leadership as an arrogant power?
I think you'll see when it's all said and done, if we have to use force, a lot of nations will be with us. Iraq will serve as a catalyst for change, positive change. So there's a lot more at stake than just American security and the security of people close by Saddam Hussein. Freedom is at stake as well, and I take that very seriously.
Selv de store NATO-lande, Tyskland, Frankrig og Canada, sagde nej til krigsdeltagelse. Nu skruede krigshøle deres retorik op med Bush' berømte ord.
Either you are with us, or you are with the terrorists. Either you're with us, either you love freedom, and with nations which embrace freedom, or you're with the enemy. There's no in between. You're either with us or you're with the enemy. That's clear. I will continue to make that clear.
Iraks udpinte militær lå allerede i ruiner fra krigen i 90'erne, og Irak blev invaderet uden det store besvær.
They've been psyoped into believing that. They believe that we're in Iraq. They believe we're in Iraq to promote democracy. The word democracy, you hear George Bush saying democracy means freedom. No, democracy equals New World Order.
Most international lawyers around the world have concluded that it was a war in violation of the United Nations Charter. The Charter allows states to use armed force in self-defense against an armed attack. Clearly, neither the United States or the United Kingdom were subject to an armed attack.
Alligevel udleverede Danmark fanger til både USA og England, som begge udøver tortur. Dette er i direkte strid med Genève-konventionen. Regeringen slettede desuden vigtige beviser i sagen om fangemishandlingen. Amnesty mistænker Danmark for medvirken til tortur.
Der er ikke noget at komme efter, der er ikke noget at undersøge.
Americans are asking, why do they hate us? They hate our freedoms. By sacrificing human life to serve their radical visions. By abandoning every value except the will to power. They follow in the path of fascism, Nazism, and totalitarianism. And they will follow that path all the way to where it ends, in history's unmarked grave of discarded lies.
Du, herr præsident, og de forenede stater har mere end nogen anden udbredt en vision for frihed og demokrati over hele verden. Tillad mig at hylde dem for dette. Anders Fogh.
The other big story this week, George Tenet, former CIA director, now making the rounds. He's got a book. You know, I saw the picture of them in the paper from 2003 when Colin Powell was at the UN holding up that vial and saying, this is Saddam Hussein's bad chemical stuff, and Tenet sat right behind him. I always defended Powell for staying in the administration as long as he did. I said, you know what? Better to have one sane guy in the room than none. But I read Maureen Dowd's column this week, and she said, you know what? If Tenet and Powell together, the two guys who knew this was bullshit, had walked out together, maybe this never would have got going. You think that's true?
Recently, when President Ford died, there was a lot of revisionist discussion about his pardoning of Richard Nixon. And in most cases, both Democrats and Republicans got on the talk shows and said, well, as it turned out, it was a great unifier for the country. At the time, the country was very divided, chaos. And I think it's really quite the opposite. That when you have a precedent set like that, and you have somebody, George Tenet, acknowledging in his book that he knew that the administration was deceiving the American people into a situation that is murdering young men and women from this country and others, that George Tenet and Dick Cheney and Condoleezza Rice and George Bush et al. Should be in fucking jail.
Efter 2. verdenskrig blev der afholdt retssager for at straffe krigsforbrydere. Det var regeringsmedlemmer og generaler, der hovedsageligt blev holdt ansvarlige for forbrydelser begået under krigen. Anklagerne lød på forbrydelser mod freden, deltagelse i sammensværgelse om at begå forbrydelser mod freden, krigsforbrydelser, forbrydelser mod menneskeheden.
The Charter also allows the Security Council to authorize the use of armed force, even if there is only a threat to the peace or breach of the peace. And so the Security Council could have authorized the use of armed force. However, the US and UK argued that earlier resolution by the Security Council had been violated by Iraq, and that they, the alliance, were entitled to take action in order to enforce the Council decisions. Most lawyers, and I agree with them, would say that no, it's not the individual members that can do that, but it's the Council that could do so. And in the Council there was no majority for such an action. So there was really no legal basis for the war.
Fordi en person handlede efter ordre fra sin regering eller fra en overordnet, fritager det ham ikke for ansvar under international lov, eftersom et moralsk valg er ham til stede. Krigsforbryderdomstolen i Nürnberg. Jyllandspostens Flemming Rose, medlem af den hemmelige Bilderberg-gruppe, bestilte og udgav de provokerende tegninger. Tegningerne forårsagede, at vores respekterede Danmark nu blev hadet overalt i den muslimske verden, og handel med danske varer gik faretruende i stå. Straffelovens paragraf 100. Den, som ved offentlig udtalelser tilskynder til, eller som fremkalder øjensynlig fare for fjendtlige forholdsregler mod den danske stat, straffes med fængsel indtil 6 år. Anders Fogh ville naturligvis ikke bøje sig og begrænse pressens ytringsfrihed. Men da tidligere efterretningsofficer major Frank Grevil lækkede informationer til pressen om regeringens misbrug og fordrejning af efterretningsgrundlaget for den ulovlige angrebskrig, blev han straffet med fængsel, da det gjaldt rigets sikkerhed. I bedste Gestapo-stil blev journalister nu angrebet af Foghs pressepoliti, med trusler om fængsling for at have bragt rigets sikkerhed i fare. Ytringsfriheden blev stoppet med hård hånd. Hvad bragte rigets sikkerhed mest i fare? Frank Grevils informationer om en efterretning, der kunne have forhindret en dansk deltagelse i en ulovlig krig, eller Muhammed-tegningerne, der nu for alvor bragte Danmark i terroristernes sigtekorn. I gamle dage var kongen enevældig, og hans ord var lov. Som i resten af Europa ville folket ikke længere finde sig i en enevældig konge, og der blev indført en vis form for medbestemmelse. Efterhånden blev der dannet partier. Der opstod gradvist en blå blok og en rød blok, som vi kender det i dag. Kongehusets magt trådte efterhånden længere i baggrunden. Men grundloven sørgede dog for, at politikken, der kunne stemmes om, altid blev låst fast inden for snævre rammer. Politik minder om et hestevæddeløb, hvor vi kan spille på en blå eller en rød hest. Løbets sorte outsider har aldrig en reel chance. Hvem der vinder, spiller heller ikke den store rolle, da det er de samme bagmænd, der ejer og kontrollerer alle hestene. Det handler ikke om for eller imod højre-venstre politik. Vi ser, hvordan den røde blok først er ved magten, og den blå blok kritiserer alt, hvad den røde blok foretager sig. Når folket bliver trætte af den røde blok, så skiftes de ud med den blå blok. Og den røde blok kritiserer så alt, hvad den blå blok foretager sig. Når den blå blok falder i unåde hos folket eller kører trætte, så skiftes de igen ud med den røde blok, osv. Læg mærke til, at det ofte kun er ganske få mandater, der afgør regeringens farve. Ansigterne skifter, men den overordnede politik, der gennemføres, er næsten altid identisk. Socialdemokraterne med Poul Nyrup sendte os i krig. Venstre med Anders Fogh sendte os i krig. De skændes og diskuterer og giver indtrykket af debat og meningsforskelle. Men i virkeligheden er det kun kosmetiske forskelle, der skiller det største venstreparti og det største højreparti. De mindre partier på hver fløj, der stadig tør udtrykke politiske ukorrekte meninger, fungerer blot som sikkerhedsventiler for vrede og utilfredse vælgere. Vores valgmuligheder holdes altid inden for et sæt helt snævre politiske spilleregler, som ikke er til at røre ved. Vi snydes til at tro, at vi har medbestemmelse. I virkeligheden er der kun et overordnet parti med flere mindre fraktioner.
Democracy equals slavery. The word democracy is not synonymous with freedom. It's the opposite of freedom. Democracy is the worst form of government you can have because it's majority rule. And the government can tell you exactly what they want to tell you to do. Because the majority wants it. I don't care what the majority wants. I live my life as I choose. And if I don't commit violence, theft, or fraud against another human being, I can live my life as I wish. That's my choice. And if I'm allowed to make mistakes, because when you make mistakes, you learn from them. You grow as a human being. We're put on this earth to become the best individuals we can be, to fulfill our God-given potential. Right? We're not here to put on this earth so the government can tell us how to live our lives and what we must do. We put into these systems and these paradigms. No.
Der går sjældent røg af en brand, siger et gammelt ordsprog.
Helle Thorning har omfattende forbindelser til international politik via hendes mand Stephen Kinnock, søn af Neil Kinnock, der var leder af Storbritanniens socialdemokratiske parti Labour fra 1983 til 1992, og god ven af USA's vicepræsident Joe Biden. Stephen Kinnock var direktør for British Council i St. Petersborg, hvor han blev taget for spritkørsel. Ifølge seniorofficer i FSB, tidligere KGB, der er ingen tvivl om, at britisk efterretningstjeneste bruger konsulatet og andre organisationer til at spionere i Rusland. Helle Thornings svigerforældre har lænset mindst 70 millioner kroner fra EU-kassen. Neil Kinnock har været under efterforskning for sin medvirken i omfattende milliardsvindel. Gang på gang har han prøvet at lukke munden på bogholderen, der ville afsløre svindlen.
This constitution has been for referendums. It has been rejected. So you should respect the no in France and the nay in the Netherlands, and in my view, start on afresh. Call on a directly elected convention with the task establishing a new text, put it for referendum the same day in all states where it's possible. Then you have the verdict of the peoples, and then it's clear. Everyone will have to agree the amendments in the end. Then you have involved the peoples, then people will feel satisfied. The decision to make a referendum will change the content dramatically. How do we make laws in Europe? And no one knows. And if they knew, they would cry, because 85% of all our laws are done by civil servants, in secret working groups, in the council, prepared by 3,000 other secret working groups, in the commission, where Graham and I, as elected members of parliament, have absolutely no access.
Anders Fogh ville ikke give det danske folk en afstemning om Lissabon-traktaten. Helle Thorning sagde også nej til at høre folkets mening. Men tronfølgeloven, som er fuldstændig uden betydning for den danske befolkning, kom til afstemning. Og en kæmpe debat udspillede sig i de danske medier. Ved et pennestrøg uden folkeafstemning og med brud på grundloven, banede Anders Fogh og Per Stig vejen for at fjerne Danmark som nationalstat. Fra nu af vil 85% af alle love blive lavet af tjenestemænd i hemmelige arbejdsgrupper, som folkevalgte politikere ikke har adgang til. Danmark og alle andre lande i EU vil snart blot være provinser, styret af en håndfuld bureaukrater, som ikke er valgt af folket. Straffelovens paragraf 98. Den, som foretager en handling, der sigter til ved udenlands bistand ved magtanvendelse eller ved trussel derom at bringe den danske stat eller nogen del af denne under fremmed herredømme, eller at løsrive nogen del af staten, straffes med fængsel indtil på livstid. Ingen af EU's ledere turde give deres folk en mulighed for at stemme om Lissabon-traktaten. Bortset fra Irland, som sagde nej i 2008. I bedste diktatorisk stil blev de nu tvunget til at stemme om igen.
Because you shall know that what is published until now, what is signed by the Prime Ministers, is a text they have never ever read. Never. Why? Because it can't be read. This is not a treaty. This is 300 pages of amendments to 3,000 other pages of treaties. And you can only read it if you take one amendment by one and then look it up in the existing treaties and insert it. We will do that job for you so that you will have a reader-friendly edition where it's possible. They have decided in the Council that it's not allowed for any institution in the European Union to print a consolidated version which can be read before it has been approved in all 27 member states. This is a decision. The European Parliament, we agreed unanimously in the Constitutional Affairs Committee that we wanted a reader-friendly edition, a consolidated version, which could be read unanimously. We will not have it, because higher powers decided we cannot have it. This is an instruction from some prime ministers. They do not want the text to be read. The order is sign, read afterwards.
I'm joined now from Brussels by Margot Wallström, Vice President of the European Commission. Your boss, José Manuel Barroso, said the treaty isn't dead, the treaty is alive. Can you explain to voters what they would have to do to kill it?
I think, first of all, if we are serious about democracy, I think we have to understand why the Irish people voted no. That must be sort of the first stage, and this is what the Irish and what we will contribute to do until the heads of state and governments meet.
Presumably they voted no because they don't like the treaty, but your boss is saying it will go on. I'm just asking you, what would they have to do not to have it?
You're not even pretending anymore. You're pushing ahead with all the symbols of statehood and trying at the same time to lie and cheat with the Irish by giving them a series of guarantees that are not worth the paper that they are written on. Well, I can tell you that many of us in this Europe of Freedom and Democracy group will do all we can to help the no side in that Irish referendum. The future of European democracy rests very heavily on Irish shoulders. You fought, Mr. President, against the Soviet Union. You fought for democracy. You fought for national self-determination. If you continue to ignore the democratic voice of countries like France, the Netherlands and Ireland, then you will turn the European Union back into that very union that you fought so hard against.
The fundamental problem here is that many voters throughout Europe think that the EU is an undemocratic imposition, and they don't object to membership of the EU, they just object to the way it's being run and things are imposed on them. And when voters say no, you say we're going to go on and trying to find a way to make you say yes.
No.
And yet more status quo. You supported the idea of shooing in Mr. Barroso without there being any sort of proper contest. But it's on the Lisbon Treaty that I was most interested. You ratified the treaty through your own parliamentary chambers without, of course, the thought of giving the people in your own country a referendum to express their opinion. But it's when it comes to Ireland that I really get interested, because you said that you wanted there to be a credible policy for Ireland with their second referendum. And so you produced these guarantees, and here they are. Guarantees on the right to life, on taxation, on security and defence. This document has no legal force whatsoever. It is not worth the paper that it's written on. You are the author of a disgraceful attempt to con the Irish into voting for this Lisbon Treaty in their forthcoming referendum. Of course, you've been supported by Mr. Barroso on that. He doesn't ever respect the result of democratic referendums, whether they're in France, the Netherlands or Ireland. He says we must ignore them. We must continue. It's all about power. It's all about him and the EU institutions getting more power at the expense of the member states. I hope the Irish tell you all where to go in the second referendum on October the 2nd, and they just might. European parliamentarians and leaders are not listening to the peoples of Europe, at which 200 of you got up and walked out of the room.
Just to go back to the point, for the voters, the only voters who've had a say on this treaty, the only ones, the Irish voters, very intelligent, very well-informed people, quite a big turnout, they said no, and yet the process still goes on. So therefore, that is absolutely what people mean by the democratic deficit.
Hvad er så formålet med krigene, terrorpakkerne og indskrænkelser af helt grundlæggende menneskerettigheder, som er blevet implementeret globalt. Folket ville ikke have krig, og politikerne burde arbejde for folket. Hvem kontrollerer politikerne? Hvem ønsker krig og hvorfor? Hvem styrer i virkeligheden verden, og hvad er deres dagsorden?
You have to be a finance oligarch. Remember, this is not a society ruled by generals, not by priests, not by bureaucrats, not by demagogues, none of those, but by bankers.
Anders Fogh bliver belønnet for sine forbrydelser mod menneskeheden med en NATO-toppost. Og der er store chancer for, at krigsforbryderen Tony Blair bliver EU's præsident. Hvad er formålet med EU som politisk superstat?
In 1954, the elite of the planet met in secret at the Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek, Holland. The Bilderberg Group would later admit that their mission was the formation of the EU. Once the EU was established, under the guise of trade deals, a North American Union and Asian Union would be formed. The three interlocking superstates form the core of the global government, while the United Nations would serve as a world regulatory and enforcement body over the Third World subregions. The Bilderberg Group consists of the heads of all of the managing roundtable groups that steer individual countries. Picture the elite power structure of the world as a giant pyramid, with only the elite of the elite at the tip-top of the capstone. The group has been so secretive that until the mid-1980s, the controlled corporate media denied its existence. Into the late 1990s, coverage only consisted of rare one-line mentions. With the rise of the alternative media, their stranglehold on information has begun to slip.
On the outskirts of the national capital today, black limousines with darkened windows converged on a hotel where private security guards imposed ironclad control. The limos carried royalty, political power brokers, and industrial titans to a secret meeting that will last all weekend. It's known as the Bilderberg Group. Could their objective be world domination?
I learned an awful lot from Mr. Rockefeller. And one of the things that we used to talk about was the ultimate plan of the banking industry, what they wanted to accomplish. And the goals of the banking industry, not just the Federal Reserve System, but the private banks in Germany and England, all over Italy, all over the world, they all work together. They're all central banks. And they're all part of the Communist Manifesto. You know, central banking is one of the major planks of the Communist Manifesto. We talk about America being a capitalistic country, but yet at the same time we have a central bank that plans everything for us, right? And the graduated income tax is another plank of the Communist Manifesto, right? So right there you have two major planks of the Communist Manifesto that have been brought in because of the Federal Reserve System, okay? So the ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one-world government, run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is getting me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
everything.
You sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one-world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people. And you become a slave. You become a serf to these people. That's their goal. That's their intentions.
Bilderberg is not a person, it's not an idea, it's an ideal, a very powerful group of people working together and for the positions of ultimate and absolute power, destroying every constitution on earth, really, no matter how powerful the constitution of the nation is. That's what these people do.
The African Union arose out of the African Economic Community, set up in the early 1980s. The African Union is financed by a consortium of international bodies, governments, and corporations. The African Union Army serves as an enforcement arm for the New World Order's exploitation of Africa. In Asia, APEC and ASEAN have announced plans to form the Asian Union, consisting of Asian and Pacific nations, having more than 3 billion people within its borders.
APEC will become the Asian Pacific Union, and the world is to be divided into 3 great regions for the administrative convenience of the world government in which the UN is to evolve.
As the unions form individually, they are simultaneously merged to form the first planetary government.
They're trying to destroy every nation on earth which is trying to promote progress, because these people basically, they're landowners. They don't need progress because they control the land. If you take the most powerful man in London, the people who belong to the Council and the Committee of 300, who belong to the Bilderbergers, the British royalty, the Guelphs, the black nobility of Venice and Genoa, these people, they're landowners. The New World Order is the Old World Order. I mean, it's just the names have changed, the appearances have changed, but the concept hasn't changed. The idea is still to bring the men back, kicking and screaming back to the Middle Ages, post-industrial age world order. Now, I think what is very difficult for most people to understand is how such a small group of 125 men and a few women control a population base of 6 billion people. Actually, it's much easier than you think. These people work on what I call systemic methodology, meaning that you take a pie, just imagine, take an apple pie, and you slice this apple pie into lots of very small pieces, and you put in front of each one of these pieces your men or women of trust. And by controlling this individual, you control an entire organization. For example, if you take Paul Wolfowitz, who runs the World Bank, through him, you can control the entire organization. You don't need to control what the dishwasher or the toilet cleaner thinks or does or believes in. You just need to control what he does and what he believes in, and what he does will permeate the entire organization. And that's how you control, with a very, very small power base, an entire global population of 6 billion people.
Helle Thorning blev set på dette års Bilderberg-møde i Athen. Det tyder med stor sandsynlighed på, at hun bliver Danmarks næste statsminister. Bilderberg kan med deres netværk i bankverdenen, industrierne og pressen promovere de kandidater, der er bedst egnet til at videreføre deres vision for verden.
Nobody gets into politics without becoming a part of the Bilderberg group, and then you find out afterwards that that is the case, that they have...
Well, Bill Clinton went there in '91, George Bush Sr. back in like '85.
And Blair, same thing. Who we think that we're electing as leaders have already been pre-picked for us, whether it's liberal or conservative. They're already part of the group.
They own all the horses in the race.
They own the horses, and I understand that, for example, in the United States, it's a one-party system with 2 factions, though you think it's 2 different parties.
Oh, it is, yeah.
I England, som er det mest overvågede samfund i verden, har man et kamera per 14 mennesker. Over 1 million uskyldige ligger i DNA-databaser, og over 5.000 skoler tager fingeraftryk af uskyldige skolebørn. Fra Dansk Folkeparti til de konservative til SF siges der ja til fingeraftryk og personlige oplysninger lagt i private databaser over alle, der går ud i nattelivet. Også uskyldige uden kriminel fortid. George Orwell skrev i 1948 en bog, der hedder 1984. Den viser med klarhed, hvor vi er på vej hen som samfund.
As we all know, the biological and social stimulation of the family leads to private reflection outside party needs.
You're thoughtful.
Unorthodox loyalties which can only lead to thought crime. There is truth, and there is untruth. It's the freedom to say 2 + 2 = 4.
Clap your hands behind your heads.
Surrounded.
Courage, strength, and youth are sacrificed. Who are they?
There are thought criminals who maintain resistance is not real. Believe me, Winston, it's very real. Big brother, from the age of the thought police.
30 to 40 group, take your places, please.
Double plus breakfast. Dinner. I don't think there's a single piece of meat in this, dear. You knew this was evidence. The individual is only a cell.